Hello and welcome to the second joint Foreman and Katello demo. We got a few items from both projects we're going to show today. We will be starting with Walden, who's going to show some updates and changes to Parada. Over to you, Walden.
All right, should be pretty quick. So this is the errata list page here. During this past sprint, we addressed some confusion between the terms applicable and installable for errata. It used to be applicable and available. We renamed available to installable to kind of lessen the phonetic confusion between the two. And we also added on this page, we used to show all errata even if it wasn't applicable to any content host. So here we're defaulting to applicable, and you can also filter by installable, and you'll notice that first errata that wasn't installable is now gone. And if you wanted, you can show all the errata by unchecking both boxes, and you'll notice that the count here is much greater now, and we're showing stuff that's not even applicable or installable. So I'm over my time. If anyone has any questions, I will field them now.
If you could just stick around, Walden, that way, since there's that 30-second delay, and we'll pick up questions sort of after the next one.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Walden. Up next, we have Justin, who's going to show a variety of things from separating Puppet environments to GPT keys to a capsule, and some of the composite and component updates that are coming along with incremental updates. All you want, Justin.
All right, can you see my screen all right? Assume so.
That's good.
All right, so as part of this, we had some feedback that a user and customers both given us feedback that we want the ability to use separate lifecycle environments and content views for our provisioning as from our Puppet environment. So this basically added the ability to separate those. So in this scenario, you see this is a host group. It currently has a separate lifecycle environment content view as its Puppet environment. If I change it, it won't actually update. But if I want to reset it and sync them up, I can just click this little link and they will reset. And then, for example, if I submit that, apologies. And then, so now they match. If I go in and change it, the Puppet environment automatically updates as well. And this carries on to hosts. If I go into a host, I can pick a lifecycle environment. A content view, and it will fill in the Puppet environment. If I select a host group, the inheritance will carry through, and actually I selected the same one, I think, as the host group, but the inheritance will carry through and it will select here. This works together with, on the host group screen, the activation keys tab, so it now uses those instead of the Puppet environment. It works on the provisioning templates on the host object to properly calculate the Kickstart URL if you're using a content view for kickstarting, and generally just allows the user a bit more control over where their content and their Puppet content is coming from. And then next item, let's see. I'll skip this one for now, but keeping track of components. So previously, once you created a component, let me go back to this tab so it doesn't log me out. Once you created a component, we lost all track of where the published, or once you published a composite version, we lost all track of where that composite version came from, what it was made of. So here we added some tracking. If we go into our composite here, and we'll go into version 2.0, we can see that this 2.0 is made up of version 1.0 of these other two content views. So this then allows us to do composite updating as part of incremental updates. So you see here, this is a Postman API call, very similar to the last sprints that performed an incremental update, specifying the errata ID I want, which content view version, which environment I want it to go to. This just added a new option, propagate to composites, and I ran this exact call, and which was updating version with an ID of 35, which is version 1.0 of this component. You can see here 35, and it also updated when I created this 1.1 version. It updated the composite to 2.1 automatically. I'm not going to run it here just because it takes so much time. And then the last thing I was going to show was adding GPG key support to the capsules, or sorry, being able to proxy the GPG fetching through the capsules, so that if you had a repository that was protected by GPG key, it would fetch it through the capsule, and this relies on the reverse proxy to be in place. So let's see, I've got a terminal I need to share. Okay. So this is a client that is subscribed to the satellite or the Katello server and is subscribed to some YUM content that is set up using a GPG key. If we look in rhsm.conf, we'll see that the base URL is not set to the main server. It is set to a capsule. And so then if we look at the etc Red Hat.repo file, which is what points us to the GPG key and to the content, you see here it's using the proxy, and the GPG key is now using the proxy as well. So instead of going to the main Katello server, it's going through the proxy to fetch the GPG key. And I think I made it through with a minute to spare. So if there are, I'll hang out, but if there are no questions, I'll hand it back over to Eric.
All right. There's a question for Walden, and then at least one question for you, Justin, so if you'll just hang on.
I think I'm next. Yeah, just a second, guys.
Yeah, it looks like
Something GPG key mentioned kind of warmed my heart. But never mind.
Mute yourself, please.
Anyway, can you guys?
it looks like Mike already answered Brian's question for me. Yeah, basically, applicable just means that the host needs the errata, and installable is that it needs the errata and it can actually install it because it's available in the lifecycle environment.
All right. And then, Justin, for you, if it was a new host group, will the Puppet env default to the one from the content view lifecycle environment? Are you there, Justin? I guess he decided to mute himself. All right, I will move on to the next presenter. Up next will be Partha showing off content view version details. Over to you, Partha.
I don't think anyone heard it.
Partha, are you there?
All right.
One more time. Are you there, Partha? Okay, we'll try and circle back. Next, then, moving on, we're going to Alex, who is going to talk about testing multi-capsule sync.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. It's all yours, Alex.
Okay. All right. So I have, first off, I'm Alex Cross. I work with the performance engineering team. I'm going to be just kind of quickly going over some of the multi-capsule syncing tests that I've done. So there's many variables to test here: the number of capsules, the size of RPMs, the number of RPMs that I'm syncing, the number of repos that I'm pushing to those, and then what operating system I'm running it on top of, as well as tunables within those operating systems, and some of the different things that you can configure within the application itself. So here's my test bed. You got Satellite 6 servers, that's running Katello, Foreman, Pulp, Candlepin, all there, and I'm pushing the content from that Satellite 6 server out to the capsules themselves. The capsules are virtual machines because limited on hardware assets, so I have 3 machines that have 7, 7, and 6 number of capsules pinned to each of those machines. Each of the capsules just have 2 virtual CPUs. Then I also have a monitoring and workload server there that's using the hammer command to push that content to those capsules. So here's some results. Before I go through these results, let's kick off a quick demo here. So this is on the, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, if it's big enough or not, but this is my test case script. I'll start that off. It's going to run against 20 capsules. I'm going to sync 2048, 256 kilobyte RPMs to each of them. I'll also start off just a monitoring script on, this is the Satellite 6 machine, and this is one of the capsules. There's 20 of them, so it's pretty difficult
Alex,
to watch 20
trying
of
to
them.
show us the terminal. All we can see is the presentation right now.
Ooh.
You may just need to swap what you're sharing.
Yeah, how do I do that? Stop and then try again. Entire screen. All right, can you see it now? So basically, I run a monitoring application that's internal to our team for performance metric gathering. So it'll gather those metrics while it performs the syncs themselves. So we're watching right now, this is on the Satellite 6 machine. If we watch the CPU, we saw the user CPU just shot up there quickly. Those are the hammer commands incoming, and now I'm watching the Ethernet I/O, and we can start to see the I/O there kick up. That's all the capsules are hitting the Satellite 6 machine now, requesting that content. So you can see the accumulated I/O is growing we're at about 1 gig right there, and 2 gigs, 3 gigs, 4 gigs, 5 gigs. So it's quickly pushing this content out to those capsules. I'm sorry, the capsules are quickly grabbing the content off of the Satellite 6 machine there. You can even switch over to the capsule itself and see the Ethernet I/O down this column in megabytes, and you see that it actually synced all 512 megabytes fairly quickly there. So once we'll go back here, and we're still waiting for that sync to finish on those 20 capsules. The satellite 6 machine is still getting hit for some Ethernet I/O. Oh, it just dropped now down to 0, so all the capsules have got their content now. So now we're just kind of waiting for Pulp to do that last little bit of post-processing of the files. We can even look at the individual capsule and see that that I/O accumulated has pretty much stopped at this point. And it's actually completed all the syncs. So on the satellite 6 machine itself, I maintain I output all of the timing values out to these files right here. So for all 20 capsules, I have all 20 timing values. I'll go like that right there, and I already pre-baked a command to just grep for the real times out of them, and then split that into seconds, and then run that through this little Python histogram script right there. So I can look at the histogram results. So we can see the mean for all capsules to sync that content took 54 seconds. The max was 75 seconds. The minimum was 43 seconds. So that's pretty cool. We're able to get that content pretty quickly. While that's pushing, that already pushed my metrics. I'm running out of time here. This is where I keep all the metrics. So I can look at the satellite server's CPU right here. So we can see the CPU usage on the satellite machine itself. Not that much for pushing to 20 capsules there. And let me close this out with just going back to my graph here. All right, and you can basically see with this graph, I've graphed 2 through 20 capsules. In that, this test is showing actually Rail 6, so the performance is just a little bit less than what we saw with Rail 7 there. We saw the upper end at 75 seconds. The upper end on this particular run was 91 seconds. You can see the max there at 20 capsules. So what's good about this results is that the line is fairly flat. So increasing the number of capsules did not impact as badly as I thought. Just syncing that content. And that's mainly because the capsules themselves are hitting Apache and grabbing that content off of there. So that's pretty much all I have. If there's any questions, I'm not sure if you want me to take them now or wait for them to come through.
If you could just stick around and in case they pop up, we'll field them after the next presenter.
Okay.
And thank you. So over to Lukasz to talk about Katello SE Linux split out.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. So share my screen. Google Hangouts share. So you should hopefully see my screen. This will be short. I've extracted our Foreman SE Linux rules for Katello plugin into a separate Git repo. It's called Katello SE Linux. And the important thing I want to tell you is that it's a new repo under the same URL. So you need to delete or wipe off the old one if you have to check out and check out a new clone a new. Actually, all I want to say is that we have a Katello rules and Katello related rules. For example, Elasticsearch things, and I will be poking around when I need to review or test some things, because I'm maintaining the thing and try hard to test things, but usually I struggled, and this was the problem when this was in Foreman SE Linux, because Dominic was the only one who volunteered to test and review the stuff. So I'll be likely, when there will be some patch in regard to the, well, let's say Docker, I will poke Docker guys to test my changes there. So the thing is to improve our workflow and to push changes into Katello as Linux as soon as possible. And there's makefile that really helps you with everything, and there's one interesting make target, which is load, I think remote load, which which will actually deploy this policy onto remote host, so you can easily have a beaker instance where you're testing lab or whatever, and deploy the policy for testing very easily. It's just one-liner for me. It's big help. So please, if I ping you, just help me with this thing. Thank you. How do I unsure?
All right. Thanks, Lukash. Like the others, stick around just in case any questions come through for you. Up next, we have Shlomi, who's going to talk about user time zones.
Hi everyone, how are you? I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So up until now, we have displayed all of our times in UTC time zone, the universal time zone, and we thought it would be very cool to have user time zone. So basically, what we've added is on your user account, you have a new tab, which is time zone. The default is the browser time zone, but you can change it. For instance, I'm working from, I would say, Bratislava, or let's something more interesting, Tbilisi, for instance. And once I'm saved, the time zone will be changed to my selected time zone. Emails will be sent on your time zone, and all other reports will be displayed to that time zone. So this is about user time zones. I'll now switch to talk about OpenSCAP, if that's okay. OpenSCAP is a line of standards which checks the security of configurations and is examining the system for signs of compromise. To start with that, and this is a very big issue, and we'll have a deep dive on it. To start with that, we need to upload a new SCAP content. You give it some kind of a title, for instance, rel, and choose the file that you wish to have. Let me, for instance, say that this is my time zone. It's a specific set of rules which then goes and tests on your client machine. Once it is uploaded, I can create a new policy from that SCAP content. So I go to policies and create a new compliance policy. I give it a name. Let's call it, for instance, rel policy. I can then choose to which SCAP content I wish to have it working. So I can choose the rel one and select the profile that I wish to test with. Note here that I need to ensure that the same SCAP content is uploaded to the host that I wish to examine. I can then schedule, for instance, weekly or monthly and on a selected day. As all of our systems, I can assign it to a location and organization. And at the end, I can apply it to a specific host group that I wish to have. Once I'm applying that, it will apply the policy and create updates the puppet class which the policy uses to run on all the servers. So this is, now I have a few policies that I can work with. I'll switch for a second to the server. To install the SCAP client, all you have to do is gem install from an SCAP client. Once it's installed, you can configure it. With our Puppet client, it will be auto-configured by itself. The configuration looks like that. It says which is our proxy server and which policies we have, their Foreman IDs, and which profile and content path we're having. To run it, it's very simple. You just run Foreman SCAP client and you give the ID that you wish to check. It's running it. It takes a minute. It tests all the security compliances that you had in your SCAP content. And the content is uploaded then to the smart proxy. From the smart proxy, you can just run a smart proxy OpenSCAP send. This is another gem which is installed on the smart proxy.
Shlomi, if you're showing your terminal, we aren't able to see it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was sure.
No
Do you
worries.
see it now?
Still just see your web browser being shared.
Okay, and now?
Share the terminal itself.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyhow, it is sending the data from the smart proxy to Foreman, and then the data is aggregated on the reports. On the reports, you can see, according to your host name, how many tests have passed, how many have failed, and if there are any other issues that you may want to take in attention, so it also displays it. You can view the full report. Okay, so you can scroll down and see which tests have passed and which tests have failed. And basically that's it. This is for the current version. On the next version, we're going to have a dashboard for each view, which may look like this, which will tell you how many of the latest reports have passed, how many have failed, and you could see the trend over time. So first I had 11 failed checks, and I've applied some tests, some fixes, and now they're coming down. One last thing about the reports, which is important to know, is that when you're clicking on a report, it can give you the remediation for each of the failing tests. So you can click on clicking disabled, for instance, the status is failed, and it's telling you what are the steps you should do to fix it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It looks like we have a question about time zones for you, real quick. The question is, will time zones be reflected in plugins such as the Katello Angular-based UI or other plugins? And what about showing that time zone in Hammer API calls?
It's a very good question regarding Hammer. I'm not sure, but basically it will reflect on all of your plugins. It is supposed to reflect on all of your plugins. If there is an issue on a plugin, there are lots of times which we use the get local method, that should be removed, and then it will use the user's time zone.
All right. Thank you. Up next, we have Greg, who's going to give us a networking recap.
Thanks, Eric. Sound okay? Good.
Loud and clear.
Good. Sorry, I've obviously just come back from something else, so I hadn't had time to do the tests. So, yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know we did a deep dive a little while ago about the upcoming networking features in Foreman 1.8. These were merged to develop this week, 2 days ago. So you'll already be seeing them in Nightly. We're already finding lots of interesting issues. We knew this was going to happen. This is a bit like when we merged the authorization changes back in 1.5. We knew we were going to find a lot of interesting issues. So please do test. If you want to remind yourself of the features and the rationale behind them, then please do go and view the deep dive. But just as a very brief reminder, basically all interfaces on hosts are now first-class citizens. There is no more implicit interface on the host object itself. So host.ip, host MAC, host subnet, host domain, these are all delegated to the interfaces model now. So this can lead to some interesting situations, particularly if you're doing things like scope search by subnet. Might need some updates. Just things to be aware of. We're also interested in use cases, feedback. There's still a lot more networking work to do. There's a tracker, I believe it's 2409, if you want to go and have a look at what we've already got planned. And we're interested in what everybody else comes across while they're using it. Yeah, that's all. Oh, hang on. Marek says he can show the UI, which I don't have set up at the moment, so maybe we should let him do that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll try to share my screen. So I hope you can see my browser. So as Greg said, we have basically extracted the primary interface. So when you want to build a new host, you can see the changes. There are still some small issues, but it should basically work. So now when I filled in some basic information about the host, I can go to Interfaces tab, and you can see that we no longer have a big form for all interfaces, but it's per interface, and we display the interface in a model window. And you can see here that the DNS name for that primary interface was taken from the host name, and it's synchronized. So if I change it here, go back to host, I see the change also here. And to reflect that, I also see the host name in the header. So when I create a second interface, I give it some other name. And now I can make it primary. You can see that the host name changes as well. So I can select primary and provision flag. And this also means that I can now have two separate subnets, one for provisioning, one for one being primary, which basically gives the host a fully qualified domain name that is used, for example, in a Puppet certificate. Yeah, so one more thing, important change. When I add a new interface, we also took the fields from the Compute Resource tab. So here I can map it to the virtual interface that's being created in a libvirt. I can select the subnet that it will be attached to. Here's also the notification that we moved this from the virtual machine tab, so you can set it in the networking tab. So that's quickly it. Also, one more detail: when we are in a host show page, we added Nix tab here, so you can see all interfaces of that host, and you also see the primary and provisioning flags. So that's about it, unless there are any questions.
If you don't mind hanging on, the questions may come in. The last thing is we are going to circle back to Partha to show some of the Docker content view details work that we tried to show earlier, but we had a bit of a miscommunication between ourselves. So if you're there, Partha, over to you.
All right. Okay, that doesn't work. Is that better?
There's a couple Parthas we hear.
You're unmuted. You're muted.
Now I'm muted.
Yeah, I did.
You're unmuted.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good now.
All right. Woo. Well, you did it. Took team effort here. Anyway. So here's let me start the screen share. All right, there's nothing special here, but so last time you guys saw me do like a cont review publish, This time we add like a page that shows a little more details on the versions, so you can. And my friendly page will load. You should be able to see. So here are all the published versions of this content view. Click on versions. All right. And you click on Docker repositories. And voila, there it is. There you see all the repos that are relevant to this version. Because I've published it to 2 environments, you see 2 repositories there. This is very similar to what we have for Yum repositories and Errata and Puppet modules. It's the same kind of thing. Hopefully the next sprint will show you the Katello integration part. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
We will see if they come in, but thank you. And a question for the networking guys. Do you have specific hardware resources you're using to test BMC?
Well, that's probably a question for Greg, because I'm more working on the virtual networking.
So we haven't done much testing of the BMC. That's something that would be very appreciated because we have a lack of hardware, really. It is difficult to test without dedicated hardware. I believe it should be fine. It's a type of interface, so you would add, just like you used to do, where you added the extra interface on the networking tab, you can still do that. One of the fields in that modal is the type of interface, so you can still select BMC and still provide all of the username and password and so on. So it should be fine, but if you've got access to BMC hardware, please do test it and let us know, and we'll try and fix any issues with it.
All right, that looks like the end of the questions and the end of the demo. I want to thank all of the presenters and those who watched and asked our presenters questions. That's it. Thanks for coming. See ya.
Bye, guys.